welcome back to my channel and to another one of my IKEA hacks. In today's video, I'll be sharing how I made this rotating central storage island for my wardrobe. I originally had an IKEA Kivik footstool in my wardrobe, but when I was folding my washing, I had to hunch over it or kneel on the floor. And as we don't wear shoes indoors, I never actually sat on it to put shoes on, for example. So I wanted something higher, something I could fold on, but also something that would have some additional storage space inside. I used IKEA METOD kitchen wall units in my wardrobe along the left side, and they are a really good height, so I decided to use those for this hack as well. So I bought 2 of the IKEA METOD wall units along with 4 of the matching doors, all in white. I'll leave these details in the description box below as well, just for your reference. I was going to be painting these as I did with the rest of my wardrobe, which is another IKEA hack. And white, to be honest, is the easiest of the colours to paint. When assembling the units, I left the doors off so that I could paint them more easily. I transferred the units down to our office/filming room and tilted them slightly so that the fronts were elevated off the floor for ease of painting. IKEA furniture and any other melamine type surface is actually really easy to paint. You just need to make sure that you lightly sand all surfaces before painting. Once the surfaces I was going to be painting were sanded down, I cleaned them with some sugar soap and a microfiber cloth just to remove any of the dust from sanding. I used the same paint that I used in my wardrobe, which is Rust-Oleum's kitchen cupboard paint in the shade Portland Stone. Using a small roller, I applied my paint to the edges of the units, as these would be visible, and to the insides of the units. You'll notice that I didn't paint the outside of the units, and that's because I would be covering those later on. To get a nice solid coverage, I tend to do 3 coats of this paint, leaving 4 hours between each coat to allow it to properly dry. Once the units were done, I painted the doors. I used toilet rolls to elevate the doors so that I could paint along the edges, and then when each coat was touch dry, I'd flip them over and do the other sides. I left the paint to fully cure on all of the pieces that I'd painted for a week, and then Simon helped me carry them carefully back upstairs to my wardrobe. Here we placed 1 unit face down on the floor, and I applied some stronghold adhesive on the back, and then we lifted the other unit facing upwards and placed it on the top. This particular glue needed 24 hours curing time, so we left the units like this for a day to cure fully. Whilst that was curing, I went out and bought an offcut of some MDF from B&Q to attach my spinning mechanism onto the base of my island. This offcut was slightly too big, so I measured out the correct size, and then I used our Ryobi miter saw to cut it down to that size that I wanted. The following day, we flipped the glued units over so that the new base of the island was facing upwards. I measured out where my piece of MDF should go so that it was in the dead centre of the base of the island, and then I used the same adhesive to glue it into place. I did the same with the spinning mechanism that I'd bought online, and I'll leave a link for this down in the description box below in case anyone else wants to try this hack. I then added some adhesive to secure this in place, along with screws which went into each corner of the base plate. Again, the glue needed 24 hours to cure fully, so we left it like this until the following day. It was then time to flip the island over and see if my plan had worked, which, thankfully, it did. It was rotating smoothly, exactly as I'd envisaged. So next I popped the shelves back in and then attached each of the 4 painted doors. As you can see, because I glued these 2 units together, the seams are visible on the top and the sides, and this is why I didn't paint them. Instead, I was going to cover them in a thin piece of MDF so that it looked like 1 unit with no seams. I measured out the 3 pieces that I would need, 2 for the sides and 1 for the top, and then we went to B&Q and used their free cutting service. Then I needed to paint my MDF side and top panels, so first of all I used an MDF primer. It's wise to use this on MDF because it can absorb paint and then it looks a bit patchy, so the primer just gives a good base to paint on top of. I did 3 coats of the primer and then moved on to my Rust-Oleum kitchen cupboard paint, of which I did 3 coats also. Once those were dry, it was time to stick them onto the body of the island to cover those seams. I used the same adhesive that I used when gluing the units together and for the base. I had to break this up over a number of days so that the glue could cure whilst pressure was applied to each of the sides, and then finally flip the island into its correct upright position and glue that final top panel into place. And there we go, using 2 IKEA kitchen wall units, some MDF, a bit of paint and a spinning base, I've created a fully rotating storage island. It's so handy in this room because I've got double the storage now, and because the head height in this room is limited, I can just spin the unit around when I want to get to the other side. And it's the perfect height for folding my washing. I hope you enjoyed this IKEA hack. There are lots more DIYs on my channel and lots more to come, so please do subscribe and hit that bell to get notified of my new video uploads. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.